I'll just do a little intro. I know you know who he is, but I have a pretty piece of paper here with some words on it that I'm going to read. In case you don't know, Bobby Berk is a design expert, an Emmy-nominated TV host known for his work transforming lives. Who needs tissue when you watch the show? Right. On Netflix Queer Eye, Bobby leads his multifaceted brand, including a comprehensive lifestyle destination, bobbyberk.com. Great website if you haven't been there. His design firm has quickly become a leader in the home building industry, and in 2020, Architectural Digest crowned Bobby one of the most famous interior designers working today, and we would all agree with that. He's also released his first book, Right at Home, How Good Design is Good for the Mind. Please welcome, put your hands together, Mr. Bobby Berk.
Hello, hello. Thank you, Kelly. Fun fact, Kelly and I actually met in this very building.
We did.
A few years ago.
Just a couple years ago. Yeah.
Right down in Inner Hall. So the relationships you make at Market can last a lifetime.
Exactly. We are very good friends, in case you didn't know that. We've known each other when we didn't look like this.
That's true.
Neither.
Both our hairs were different. Yeah.
Exactly.
You had less and so did I.
Exactly. And friendships really do last and test the time, don't they? And a lot of things have happened since then. So I just want to ask a few questions, things I don't actually know the answer to, and some I do, and I'm going to pretend I don't. You ready?
Perfect.
Okay, good. So we're just going to start with a little bit of background. I know we've picked up some pearls here and there watching the show, but tell us a little bit about when you first became aware of and interested in interior design.
You know, design for me started when I was very young. This is a story I talk about in my book. I was like 5 or 6 years old, and my mom had decorated my room in all red. Like red bedspread, red curtains, red rug, red pillows, like fire engine red, little boys, love that. But I couldn't articulate it at the time, but I was just like, there is just something about all this red that I do not like. This is not zen, this is not relaxing, this is not spa-like, mother. So every year my aunts and uncles and my grandma would send me, these little $20 checks for my birthday. And so, my 5-year-old self talked to my mom into letting me go buy home decor for birthdays. And I found this dinosaur poster that had these different shades of blues and greens and yellows. And I decorated my room around this poster because I was obsessed with dinosaurs. And it also ties into my book of just putting things in your home that you love, that you're passionate about. I was super passionate about dinosaurs. And so I just, right then and there, I understood the power that design has on your mental health. And again, as a child, I couldn't articulate why. I just knew it was a feeling. And then fast forward to my early teens, I walked into Target, and I saw that very first designer collaboration they ever did. Does anybody know what it was? Very good. It was Michael Graves. And I walked in, and I saw a spoon. And, spoons are normally, just a little kid growing up in Missouri, spoons are just to shovel food in your mouth, But I looked at that spoon, and it made me smile. And I started thinking about, there are people out there that aren't just thinking about the way we use things, but the way things make us feel. And they're designing them to appeal to our senses and to our passions. And so, again, a teen in Missouri, I didn't think of design as a career. My only experience with design was designing women on TV. Delta Berk, Bobby Berk. I love the people my age laughed at that. The young ones are like, what?
We aged ourselves.
My Gen Z social girl is like, what? Designing who? She didn't know who Cher was, guys. I'm sorry, Kez. I'm sorry. I love you, but I still can't get over it. What was I saying? Oh, design. So, again, it wasn't something that I knew as a child. And, I didn't go to school for design. I left home at 15. My dad always said I went to the school of hard knocks. And I kind of self-taught. I started out in retail, and then I started realizing how much I liked home design, so I started getting jobs at retail stores that sold furniture, like the Bombay Company, and the Great Indoors, and Restoration Hardware. And eventually I worked my way into my own furniture retail store, and that's when I ended up starting coming to market.
Well, let's talk about that. So growing up in Missouri, like, we got a little bit of the history of that and how different that was for you, but thank you. Look, he's like talking to the microphone, will you? The pro over here is telling me how to do this. What obstacles did you face growing up, really? I mean, we know all of us have a story and a path, but it's such a far cry from where you are now. So what do you think you took that was positive, right? Because we know the negatives, right? There's obstacles, but what did you bring through that helped you today that you think was...
You know, growing up in Missouri wasn't easy. I don't know if any of you guys are from Missouri. Missouri is a beautiful place. I definitely appreciate it more as an adult. But as a young gay kid in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't, the most wonderful place to be. But growing up in the Midwest and the heartland, it definitely taught me hard work. My dad, who just passed, a couple months ago, in his 80s, until the cancer medicine caused him to not be able to work anymore, was still working. And so growing up in the Midwest, it really gave me an amazing work ethic that I think has definitely helped my career to this day.
Yeah, I love that.
Is that a baby at market?
I know, I hear a baby.
I love it! Yay, she's got a baby in a bar at market. No. Oh, hi. It's like anytime we see a dog or a baby at market, we're like,
We were just talking about that because we all miss our dogs. How many just freak out when you see a dog, you're missing your animals? Yeah, you can't get enough, right? You're like, just give me some little animal love, right?
I don't, but Tom Felicia's walking around with his dog. Don't try to pet it. He's real protective of Tom. You're like, oh, and he's like, don't touch my daddy. No, just fair warning. He's very cute, but don't get too close to Tom.
That's fantastic. Maybe we can bring our dogs next time.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned working in retail. So how did you make that transition going from retail to then having your own store and then finally your own firm?
So the last retail store I was working for before I started my own was Portico. I don't know if any of you guys remember Portico. They were based in New York, high-end furniture store. And I started out as a store manager and then a buyer, and I worked my way up to creative director. And I had also created their e-commerce division, and this was in 2005, 2006.
Before there was e-commerce?
Nobody was selling furniture online. And one day they went bankrupt. I'm like, well, crap. What am I going to do? And, I've been fired from every single job I've ever had in my life. So I'm like, I can't go work for somebody else again. So I'm like, I registered BobbyBerkHome.com, and I just cloned the database I had built for PorticoHome.com. And I'm like, maybe I'll sell a sofa or two while I look for another job. And so the vendor relations that I had built with Portico, some of them started sending me, cease and desist emails. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gus Modern. They've been exhibitors here for years, and I get a call from Amanda, the owner, and she's like, yeah, you got to take our stuff off your website. And I was like, and she's like, yeah, we had a relationship with Portico, not you. And I'm like, give me a chance. 2 years later, we were their largest US retailer. So it worked out. But one of my biggest hurdles back in 2005 coming to market was people would be like, oh, where's your store? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm online. And they're like, online? No one's going to buy furniture online.
No one's going to buy shoes.
If you don't have a brick and mortar store, we can't work with you. And so that was literally the whole reason why I opened up a brick and mortar store, is to get manufacturers just to sell to me, because nobody would give me the time of day online. So I opened up a store in Soho, and then that did well. And so then I opened one up in Miami, and then Atlanta, and then LA. And, High Point Market was a huge part of my life and has been ever since. And then we started doing designer services in my stores, and I started working with licensed partners here, like with Left Bank and with Karastan, and Temp Paper Wallpaper. Temp Paper Wallpaper is cute. There you are. So Jenny here, her and her twin sister walked into my store, and they're like this little roll of wallpaper. And they're like, hey, so our aunt, she does design on Broadway. Oh, Mary Douglas Drysdale, oh my God, hello, I love you. Sorry, see, you get to see friends that you never get to see in years here. They walk in with this little roll of sticky wallpaper, and they're like, hey, our aunt does set design, and she's been trying to figure out, how to do wallpaper easier, because she's having to do wallpaper all the time. And they're like, would you sell this in your store? And I'm like, I put some up on my wall. We'll see how it goes. It went well, clearly. Like, they're doing amazing. Exactly. They're all over the world now with that product that now everybody else, thanks for copying. Yeah, very first ones. They were amazing. What was the question? How did I get to that? Oh, so the stores, design, started doing licensing. Anybody that's in retail here, which I'm sure is quite a few, they know it's hard. So as the design business started getting a little bit better for me and leases were up in stores, I started getting rid of stores. And then in 2015, Builder Magazine called me, and they were like, we hired a PR firm to tell us who the most well-known millennial interior designer was. And it was you, because the show homes they wanted me to design were all about what millennials wanted in homes, which now everyone's like, we don't care what millennials want, who's Gen Z? Exactly. But the funny thing is, I wasn't a designer, I was a curator of pretty things. I was a merchant, I had retail stores. I knew how to put rooms together, but I did not know how to do electrical plans. I didn't know how to do construction documents. But the funny thing is, the reason why that research came up about me was Cindy Hognett, who I'm sure some of you guys know, used to write about me at Market about my millennial point of view in design. And I know it's because of her that those people called that day. And
Thanks,
they're
Cindy.
like, yeah,
Thanks,
I haven't seen you at Market, I hope you're here. And so they're like, can you design these homes? And in my mind, I was like, God, no. But I was like, yes. I'll figure out how to do it. I didn't know CAD. I didn't know any softwares. I quickly figured out how to manipulate the floor plans in Photoshop and do what I needed to do. I remember I asked the builder, I was like, oh, I just want to make sure I'm giving you everything in the exact format that you're used to working in. So do you have any packets from other designers that you just, because I want to make sure it's exactly the way, when in fact I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But that year my husband and I decided to leave New York after 14 years and go to LA. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to open up a design firm. I hired a really great assistant right out of design school. He's now running my design firm. He knew the software I had no idea how to use. And we installed those 2 homes literally by ourselves, putting everything together, painting walls. And they were a big success. And then that builder was like, hey, do you want to do some other models for us? And then those worked. And fast forward 8 years of working with them, I'm now they're a spokesperson for the whole company. And we're probably doing like 60 homes with them this year, probably even more next year.
Great.
And all that started because of literally coming to market.
Okay, so there's a big lesson, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second. It's not on the paper, but we're going to talk about it. So many designers would come here, and we've mentioned it many, many times, that it's just more than about finding brands that you want to buy from. It's about the networking. Talk about how important High Point is, not only for the brands and for shopping and for sourcing, but for networking.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like an infomercial for Market, but
it's...
this is we're living proof of the connections that you make at Market, because we really are 2 people. Like she was walking down the hall with Stacey Garcia, and I was like, hi, I want to meet you guys. And fast forward.
Here we are.
Just like 2 or 3 years later. I was walking through Market today, and there was, the fresh designers doing these little market tours, walking around, and I was taken back to the years that I used to come to Market, and I would be the guide taking people around, doing the little tours around Market. And again, the people that I met, the connections I made, the manufacturers that, because of those relationships that I made with them, because of those late nights at Proximity, you make these relationships that'll last a lifetime. And, as designers, when we're up against a wall and we need something really quick from a designer because something got messed up, those are the relationships where they're like, I'm going to pull that from another order for you. I got you. So coming to Market is so important in so many ways.
That's true. Okay, we're going to get back to the show. So, while working as a designer, you were cast on Queer Eye in 2017, right? I remember you texting me while you were auditioning, nervous, and I was like, you got this, you're going to get it.
Remember, I was supposed to go to Spain.
I know.
with you.
Yes, exactly.
I almost did not go to the Queer Eye auditions because I was supposed to go to Spain with Kelly.
Yep.
And it was with Porcelanosa.
Yep.
And they were taking us this all-expense-paid trip to Spain. And I'm like, how often is that going to happen? I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get the show. But luckily, audition started on Wednesday, and
Yeah.
Kelly and I were supposed to leave for Spain Friday morning.
I was like, no, you're going to audition.
So I
You're
went
not
the
going.
first night, it was whatever. And then the second night, they're like, all right, we'll call you tonight if we want you to come back. And they didn't call. And finally, at like 1:30 in the morning on Friday morning, they called, and I was already like, I had my bags packed. I was ready to go to Spain, and like, we want you to come back for the final day.
So
and
good.
luckily, I didn't get on that plane.
Exactly.
And I went to Spain the next year. Sadly, not with Kelly.
I know, that's okay. But now I live there, so you can come see me anytime you want to. So how has being on the show changed your life and approach to design? I'm sure we can imagine how it's changed your life, but how has it changed your approach to design?
I think I look at design as more of a mental health exercise as well. And, that's what my book's about. Because before, as just a designer, often, we'd end up being, just like with design therapy, we end up being marriage counselors for our clients. We get involved in so many things we wish we never had to get involved in. But, being on Queer Eye and working with people who, design has never really been something they thought about. They were just getting by. That's the way their house functioned or the way it looked. That was so far down on their list of things they needed to worry about. But being able to show them how good organization, even things that don't cost money really can change their whole life. Making your bed every day. People are like, whatever. And then do I make my bed every day? No. Do I try? Yes. Teaching people that when you make your bed every day, you've set a goal. And you make that bed, and you get this little subconscious little notch of an accomplishment. An endorphin was released. I accomplished a goal I set out to accomplish. And again, it's such a tiny little goal, whatever. It's making your bed. But you started your mind in that day of accomplishing. And you get to work, and you're already on the accomplishment train. And you keep going. In turn, you don't make that bed. You're walking out of the house, and you go, I didn't make my bed. And you're like, it's okay, it's okay. Little subconscious, it's okay to not achieve the goals that I set to achieve. And then you get to work, and something comes up that you needed to do, and it's just a little more than you wanted to deal with, and you're like, it's okay. And you've already pre-programmed your mind that day to be okay with not achieving the goals that you've set out. So there's so many aspects of home. The pile of laundry in the bedroom. You go to bed at night, you see that pile of laundry, and that shirt that you're like, it's not dirty enough to go in the laundry, but it's not quite clean enough to go back. I'm definitely going to wear that again this week. And you then have like 20 reasons sitting on that chair. But you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to do that. You go to bed that night and you look and you're like, I didn't do that. You go to bed with a little notch of subconscious failure, And then the first thing you are confronted with when you get up that next morning is, again, that thing you didn't do the day. Again, a little subconscious notch of failure. And again, I know it's not a big deal. It's laundry on a chair. But over and over and over, that starts to build up. And it can cause depression. It can cause work performance issues where, again, you kind of train your brain subconsciously to be okay with not achieving what you really wanted to achieve. So little things like that can really balloon into much larger things. And that's what I love about being on the show is it's really helped me think about design and the mental health aspect of it, not just the pretty part of it, not just the functionality of it, but the way your space really can affect your mental health.
And, it's become such a huge arc of the show, right? It's a big part of the show, and we've seen that change, right, from season 1 to now. Was it intentionally that way? Did it start that way? Or has it morphed as you've gone along? Because I know that your role we've watched change as well. I mean, obviously he's doing so much work. How many of you are going, oh my gosh, Bobby is doing all the work, right? Because we're all designers, so you all know you're watching going, oh, he's doing a lot. That's a lot of work there, right? I'm with you.
We're only 42 minutes.
I know.
And every time I complain, the answer is, we're not a design show.
We're a transformational show, but you're a massive part of that.
We're not a design show.
Right? But the story that you tell when you do, we all know that's our favorite part, when they get to see the house. Come on, it's the best part. It's the best part. We just want you to know we're on Team Bobby, right? Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's true. So it wasn't necessarily the arc of the show, but you've really embraced that and made that such a big part of the show. Now, are they embracing that with you? Are they seeing the mental health change and how important that is for the...
Our heroes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. There's been so many heroes that have contacted me after who have continued, getting to the rooms that I wasn't able to get to. I have 3 days. And it's really helped them understand how sometimes when they were suffering with depression and things like that, how their spaces were exacerbating that and how it was making it worse. And it's something they really think about now. So it's been really an amazing feeling to be able to open people's eyes to understand that your space really can affect you in a huge way.
We all know that. Okay, let's talk about the book a little bit. Book section. Okay. So you just released the first book, right? It's so incredible. Right at Home. What made you write this book? What was the impetus for this?
So, since the show, especially since the show, and even before, I've been approached to do design books, and it never just felt, and this is not a knock on any design book, every design book that cultivates design is amazing, and I love them all. But a lot of times, design books can make you feel bad about your own space. Even me, as a designer, I'm like, God, I can't live like that. But as designers, we all know there's like 20 people behind that camera that made that space look perfect. But to the common person out there in the world, they don't. They look at that and they're like, I could never achieve that. My space is gonna look like that. So I didn't want to do a book that would make anybody feel inadequate about their space. Because again, being a queer, I've learned the mental health aspect of it is so important. So during COVID, when we were all sitting at home and I really started to understand how much your space affected your mental health, I started thinking about all the experiences that I had on Queer Eye and all the moments where there was kind of like these aha moments and these light bulb moments with our heroes of thinking about their spaces. And I realized, I'm like, this is it. I'm like, no one has ever talked about the connection of mental health and design. So that's the book I want to write. And I was lucky that I've been in this business long enough. I had like a whole library of photos of work that I had already had. I didn't have to go out and shoot these elaborate shoots. I was just able to really use like real work from real clients that I've done over the years. So that was my whole motivation of doing this. I wanted to do a design book, but it was more about writing a self-help book. And that's what I consider this more. It's about design, but it's more of a self-help book.
And you said that caring for your home is caring for yourself. So tell me a little bit about that. Do you think this idea of care when designing, how do they connect?
A lot of times people will think like, oh, that should be the last thing on my list, doing that. That's frivolous to worry about the design of my home. But it isn't always just about the design. As we know, it's about the function. It's about the way things make you feel. And as we know, it's so hard to get our clients to figure out what their design aesthetic is. And I don't even ask them that anymore. If you notice on Queer Eye, I never say, what's your design aesthetic? I did the very first episode, and Tom, may he rest in peace, said, French industrial. And I was like, really? It's like, do you know what that means? Because honestly, I don't even really know what that means. And he's like, no, I think I saw it in a magazine once. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, I'm not going to ask that question again. And then, we had a hero named Remy, and he had inherited his grandmother's home. And it was designed. She was so cool. But I mean, it wasn't the home of a 27-year-old bachelor. And so again, it was still early in the Atlanta season. So I was like, what's your design aesthetic? And he's like, I have no idea. I was like, that's not something that was ever I would even think about. And so I learned at that moment, I don't ask them about, I don't even remember the question, but I'm going with what I'm talking about. I remember asking him, I was like, well, what's your favorite television show? And he was like, Mad Men. And I was like, mid-century. And I was like, what's your ultimate dream vacation? He's like, Cuba. I'm like, also kind of stuck in the 50s, So I did mid-century modern furniture in his home. I did some cool temp paper, banana leaf wallpaper in the breakfast nook. I did an amazing mural from Itinerant Studios, there's another vendor here. This beautiful photo that they had taken in Havana, and I did that in mural in the living room. And he walks in and he was just like, this feels like my home, but this is absolutely a completely different space. But for some reason, I feel at home. He's like, I gave you nothing. I gave you no information. And I was like, no, you gave me everything because you gave me the things that make you happy. And going back, now I remember the question, going back to caring, putting care into the space, it's all about finding those things that make you or your clients happy. So our business, our checklist and our questionnaire for new clients, it's never about what looks they're into. It's about their favorite food and this and that. And they're always like, this is weird. And we're like, trust me. We're trying to get into your psyche. We're trying to figure out the things that make you happy because that's how your home is going to really recharge you. You know, like your phone charger. If you don't get your phone fully plugged in, or if there's a short in that cord, it won't make it through the day. That's how you really fully get charged, when your home is filled with things that you're passionate about and make you happy.
Okay, so I have a quick question. I'm sure you all are wondering the same thing. How much time do you actually get to spend asking questions prior to actually doing the design on each episode?
None. I send a questionnaire. You know, in the earlier seasons, we had a little more time, and I was honestly, I was in the spaces before. Like, I saw them before we got there. Like, I had to scout everything because I had to figure out, you know, there was no way to walk in there if I needed to do new flooring. We all know you can't get flooring in one day. You know, like, I would go in and I would if we needed window treatments. Obviously, that stuff needs to be ordered ahead of time. But in the earlier seasons, I also had just like these massive warehouse full of product that we had either went out and bought or vendors had sent us, that then that week, once I figured out things about the hero that were personal to them, I would then go in my big warehouse and I would fill up this big box truck full of stuff that I felt related to them. And then I'd park that in front of the house, and that kind of became my little mobile shop that we'd then just start pulling things from.
So interesting.
Question?
No, I'm curious about the process. I'm sure most of you are too, right?
Yeah, how much time? But this last season, I literally had 3 days to install and everything.
You have a big team.
Yeah, it was. Normally we had a week, but this season was very condensed for us. It was all Karamo's fault. He had to go film his talk show, and the funny thing is, when we originally signed our contracts years ago, of course, Netflix had first rights to us for everything. If we got another show, like Queer Eye came first. Well, Karamo, being the one that like thinks about what he wants and makes it happen, it's been his dream his whole life to have a talk show. And so he got a talk show carved out of his contract, and Netflix was like, yeah, right, girl. Yeah, you're gonna get a talk show. But he did.
He did.
And so our season had to revolve around his talk show schedule,
Wow.
which sucked for me, but was really great for him.
They're like, now you need 250 people to help you install in 3 days.
Yeah.
Wow, incredible. Okay, going back to the book, because I can't wait to go through the book. I know there's so much about it, mental health. We talked about the psychology of all of it. So we're going to do a little bit of a game, all right? I want to see a show of hands for everybody, all right? I'm going to ask a question just to see. I want to know your opinions.
I love you raising your hand. You didn't even know
They're
what was
already ready,
happening.
yeah.
Like,
I didn't even
yes.
ask. She's like, I got a hand. I'm ready. Okay, we're going to see a show of hands. So, which is better for your mental health? All of you who think white light bulbs versus warm light bulbs. White light bulbs, put your hands up. Warm light bulbs, put your hands up. Oh, wow, we're all so warm. Bobby?
I think both.
Somebody said both. Somebody said both there. Yeah.
So aesthetically, I hate white light bulbs. I hate them so much.
Oh, we look so good in them.
We ordered some landscape lights for our house in the desert, and they came cool because I didn't pay attention when I ordered them. And I put them out, and I was like, it's okay. But I literally like would twitch every time I would see them. And I finally just had to like throw them in the trash after. I'm like, I can't look at these. And we have a neighbor that has white landscape lights, and I'm just like, girl, no. But the sun actually does emit blue-white light, and it is very energizing. So I say both because in some instances, like in an office setting, it is actually better to have that bluish-white light because it is energizing, it wakes you up. Where warm light, I feel like it should always be something in the home. Mm-hmm. It's much more relaxing, it's much more soothing. You know, I hate it when I walk into a home and it feels like, years ago, I judged up my aunt-in-law's home, and I did all this great lighting and everything, and I came over, and she had literally mounted strips of fluorescent bulbs on the sides of the wall in the living room and dining room, and I was like, what? And she's like, it's too dark in here. She's like, I need light. But I'm like, but do you need that light? I've never gotten over it. I've never helped her in her house again.
Wow, listen to Bobby or you're out.
So it is both, you know, but when it comes to like a more pleasing, warm, lovely light, it is definitely more on the lower Kelvin scale for me. But white light, upper Kelvin scale, has its place.
Okay, and we're going to do it again. So, which is better for your mental health? Dark colors or light colors? Dark colors, hands up. Mental health, dark colors. Or, look, you have two hands up. How?
You don't even know what the next option is.
Yes, she does. Or light colors, better for mental health? People are like, Bobby?
I think both. Like I think it all depends on your mood. What's that?
Another, a third one?
You know, in my book, there's a whole chapter about color and the way different colors make you feel. Colors that are more relaxing, colors that are more energizing. If you've seen my show, you know I love a dark wall. But it's all about balance. You know, I've had fans write into me and be like, I painted my walls dark like you do on the show, and it's horrible. And I was like, I'm sorry. What color floors, what color sofa? And they're like, well, I have dark floors, I have dark sofa. I'm like, well, that's why. I'm like, you can't do a dark wall if everything else is dark. Design is all about balance. You know, the world is all about balance. If you're doing a dark wall, you need a light sofa, you need light floors, you need and like in my home, like I have a really cool black rug and I have a, dark coffee table, but my walls are white. Mm-hmm. It's all about balance. So again, colors are so relative. Design is so relative. Colors are so relative. And this book is all about, really giving people permission to love what they love and realize that that's what is perfect for their home.
Okay, one more question we'll do. Better for your mental health. Is it perfectly organized or lived in? Who thinks perfectly organized is better for your mental health? I see just a strong hand. Just strong hands are up there. Or lived in? Oh, yeah, we got more.
Not a lot of Virgos in the house, huh? Again, this book is all about you being you. So for me, I need things to be very organized. I'm a Virgo. I remember years ago I lived in this loft in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and a friend came in, and she was like, pardon my French, she's like, "Where's your shit?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Your stacks of mail, like this and that." And I'm like, "In a drawer. Where else would they be?" So for me, I need chaos around me. Definitely creates chaos in my mind.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm Southern boy. You always got to be ready for company to come over.
Don't you? Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. Isn't it interesting when you say company's coming, how you run around, clean up, get rid of the mail, get rid of the stacks of things, put out the flowers. Why don't we do that for ourselves?
I do.
Right?
I do.
That's what the book is about, right?
Yeah.
He does it. He's really good about that. When you go to stay at his house, everything is beautiful and it's so wonderful. But it is beautiful all the time because you have good bones. Like it's okay to have the stacks of things. I feel when the rest of the space has a good feel about it, right? It's cozy. It doesn't look messy.
Getting ready to completely gut it. So.
Are you?
Yes.
Okay.
It's so funny. So
whole nother book.
We moved into this house 3 years ago, and I instantly planned on renovating. It's a mid-century home, and she had a lot of abusive relationships in the 90s, like horrible. And so I was like, oh, I have to fix this. But as a designer, I'm like, oh God, I don't want to deal with a renovation. And so I started doing other projects, and I'm like, oh, I just don't have time. But really subconsciously, I was like, I do not want to renovate my own house. That sounds horrible. Like chefs don't want to cook when they get home. I'm like, I don't want to design when I get home. But we have to do it. I can't look at that bathroom with the mosaic tile that looks like, like those pictures that when you squint, it becomes something. That's what this mosaic tile looks like. And I've painted all the tile in the house black. They had this little 2x4 stainless steel tile in the kitchen for the backsplash. Right? I painted it black. I was like, that'll be temporary until a can of black paint or gallons and gallons of black paint can really fix things.
Okay, we're going to talk about design a little bit. So one concept you talked about in your book is designing with your senses, right? And I think we understand how sight plays into design, but how do you design with sound, touch, feel? How is that something that you do?
One thing that I like to design with is scent. Our sense of scent is one of the our strongest sense connected to memories. We've all been walking down the street and you get a whiff of Acqua di Gio and you instantly reminded of that ex from 1996. And you're like, Justin. But our sense of smell instantly transports us back to either good or bad memories in our life. So I always like to design using senses of good memories, and that's one of the questionnaires or questions in our questionnaire to designers or to clients is, what is a scent that takes you back to a dream vacation, to time with family? Like my grandmother used to always make gingerbread cookies. I'm sure they were store-bought because my grandmother was a horrible cook, but when we'd come there for the holidays, the house would always smell like gingerbread cookies. And so that scent is a scent I like to design with around the holidays because it takes me back to that warm, lovely, wonderful, safe feeling I had at my grandmother's house. But then also, like, I'm sure you guys can agree, some of our best moments have been beach vacations. And my mom, like, she just really connects with the beach. She loves the beach. She just, like, cries when she's still landlocked in Missouri. So when you get her to sand, she's like, ah. And so I always, like, bring a scent of, like, a beachy, like, feel, like, even, like, with coconut, like, suntan lotion. It reminds us of the beach. So those are the things that really transport us. And even subconsciously, if we don't think about that, right, when we walk in the house, it's the subconscious smell and scent of a memory that's, like, warm and inviting and happy. So designing with scents like that, a lot of times as designers, we forget about the sense of smell because we're very visual, very tactile, but smell is very important as well.
When you think about sound, so I recently was talking to somebody who said that they ask a playlist. So one of the things that they ask the questions of their clients is their favorite songs.
I'm very big on playlists. So I have a home in Palm Desert it's a vacation rental that I have, and it's called Casa Tierra, and it's this cool Spanish hacienda home. It's a really, really magical place. And I have this like modern Spanish guitar playlist that we always have playing when guests arrive, because it is like instantly the gate opens and it's like, and it just like, it sets the vibe. And it really, so many people have left the review of the moment we came in and we heard the music, our brains instantly turned off and we were on vacation mode, And so sound also clearly has a very powerful moments on the brain.
And would you suggest we do that at home? You know how you transform when you put on the music that feels good, right?
Yeah. Have that relaxing playlist already going when you get to your house. That way you can really turn off when you get home instead of continuing to work.
And I want to talk a little bit more about color. So are there colors that you I know we love the darks, but are there colors that you gravitate towards? And in your opinion, are there any colors that shouldn't be used in interior design?
I mean, I don't think there's ever a color that shouldn't be used, because again, it's all relative. Do I like purple? Absolutely not. But I know there's a lot of people that do. One of my best friends, everything in her life is purple, and even her hair, like she loves it, and it makes her so happy. And when I get her gifts, I always get them for her in purple because she loves it. So I don't think there's any color that should not be used. If it's something you love, if it's something your client loves, go for it. It's not up to me.
What do you gravitate towards? What makes you feel good?
I love neutrals, but like I love black as a neutral. I use a lot of that. Again, in our house, there was the kitchen cabinets were all white, and then the stainless steel backsplash. And so I painted the cabinets black, I painted the backsplash black, but I kept everything else, the walls white, to balance all that black. There was also a really nasty stone fireplace in the living room. I painted her black. But again, everything else in the room I kept very light, except for the rug, which is black. So I gravitate towards dark colors, but again, you have to balance that with light, because otherwise it becomes a cave, and that's not good for your mental health.
Okay, I have to know.
Unless you're a bat.
Unless you're a bat. It's true. So what is your design pet peeve? What is it that you just like, I just do not want to see this again? What is it?
Shiplap? Sorry, Joanna.
Show of
Wait,
hands.
is Joanna here? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. No. Yeah, I don't know. I think we've all, especially as designers, we're on the forefront of what's cool. And so we've been seeing what's cool years before the general public gets sick of things. So like we recently redid our offices and we used like light oak floors. I'm so sick of them already, because as designers, we've been seeing light oak floors it started being cool like 10 years ago, and it's now very much mainstream, and now everywhere you look. And I know a lot of clients still want it, because everywhere they look, they see like a Dream Makeover Studio McGee on Instagram, and she uses it a lot, and so people are like, oh, that's so pretty, it looks so good. But as designers, like, we get sick of things first, because we've been seeing them way longer than our clients have. So it's hard to say like what I hate. Well, I guess it wasn't hard to say it. I guess I did. But yeah, I think just like the trends that we just see too much of, Again, we see them way longer than our clients. Yeah.
What is the main thing, we all read the book and we're going to, what is the main thing that you would love for all of us to take away after we finish the book?
The connection of mental health in your home. Again, your space isn't just about making this pretty functional space. It's about making a space that really does energize you. And I think conveying that to your clients is a really important thing as well, because when they feel safe in their home, when they feel loved in their home, when they're transported to happy moments, when they come home from a stressful day at work, and because of that smell, because of that sound, because of that texture, or that photograph that you chose, that transports them to a happy Zen spot. And that's what our jobs really are as designers, is to make our clients feel at home in their space, make them feel safe, make them feel happy. And if we can achieve that, we've really done our job.
Nice. And I have to say, a round of applause for all the times and all the different ways and all the creative ways that you have incorporated people's private photos into his designs, right? Like, yay for that. How many of you are like, I love that so much. I have taken away so many tips from watching the show and seeing how to incorporate people's photos and memories. And how important is that when you're designing? Obviously, it's important too.
It's super important. It's always very hard when we have heroes that we're like, we don't have any photos, and I'm like, so we have to start contacting family, because that's a great way. If I just went in and just put stock art in an entire home, it wouldn't feel like their home. So putting those special touches in, really going out of your way to find those emotional photos, having them blown up, having them framed properly to coordinate with everything, is just as important as the beautiful pieces of art that we can find.
Okay, I want to open this up to Q&A before we wrap up and before everybody has their books and starts reading through their books. Any questions out in the audience? Chris, right there.
Do we have somebody that's bringing a mic? Or there she is.
She's right there.
There's
here
one right here.
Or you can just yell at us.
What are the more obscure, out-of-the-box questions in the questionnaire?
Wait a minute, what?
The more obscure, out-of-the-box questions.
Your question is, what are the other questions?
Yeah. No, more specific things. No, in the questionnaires for people.
I thought you meant stuff that she didn't ask me. I'm like, I don't know. Honestly, a favorite food, and people are like, what does my food matter? And I'm like, I love durian. It's not my favorite food. It's weird, it's smelly, but I actually love the texture of the outside of it. And so that made me put that in there, because I'm like, I love texture and design. I love nubby pillows, I love nubby blankets, I love a nice boucle, and that correlates with the fruits and stuff that I love. They always seem to have lychees and everything. They always seem to have this weird texture, and I love that. And so asking people what's your favorite food? Sometimes the information they give you is absolutely worthless. But sometimes if they say something like that, you're like, oh, I bet you they're probably gonna like something that has a lot of texture to it. And again, it's a subconscious thing of, oh, I love this, so oh yeah, I do love that. Yeah, that makes me feel I love sitting there on my sofa stroking that weird textural pillow.
Why does my house smell like pizza?
Yeah.
What did he do in
Why did he
here?
use that pepperoni pillow? That's tacky. I'm like, you're right, that's tacky.
Other question? Yes.
Do you want to pass it to right behind you?
There you go.
Hi, I love your approach to home and wellness and mental health. And technology is changing things so quickly. I was wondering if you could just briefly share with us, what are your thoughts about how AI is going to start to change design and people's relationship to their spaces?
On one hand, I'm worried a little. On another hand, I'm like, they can't replace us. Eventually it is going to be a problem. That's why all of us in Hollywood are on strike, because we understand that it's going to be a problem. The AI that we deal with recently, oh yes, they can make these beautiful renderings, but I'm like, none of that product is real. It's just making stuff up. But conversations I've had at market with people who are creating things that will use real product, I'm like, no, stop, don't do that. So yeah, it's an interesting time. It's definitely evolving, and yeah. So I don't have a solid answer on that, but it's definitely something that I'm a little worried about. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
More
of course.
questions.
Do you have any tips on the accessory styling part that feels true to, I know that you probably use the questionnaire, but true to the client and the person themselves, so it's not just like another knot with the same design book and the same dried flower,
Another
like
Tom Ford book.
making it very personal to them, but filling the space.
It really is amazing how many spaces have that Tom Ford book in there. And I mean, I'm guilty of it too. It's like this nice, like no, just Tom Ford, all black. It looks sexy, but yeah, no more. Let's all make a decision right here and there. No more using that book. Use my book. We always try to figure out like things that are really important, and even if it's like, there you are. I was like, wait, where would you? There you are. Even if it was, this light's really bright. Even literally like, ask them like, do you have a special rock? And you're like, wait a minute, what? Everybody has like this amazing beach trip that they went on, or a hike that they found this like cool rock, and it ended up in a box. Those are the weird type of things that I like to put as an object on a coffee table. Because again, when they see that, they're like, oh, that reminds me of that hike I went on with my lover in Banff. And it takes them back to a wonderful moment. So even if it is something weird and tacky, as a designer, it's our job to tie that into something that will work on that table with it. And to where a weird animate rock object isn't weird, it really means something. Yeah.
Any other questions?
There.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm good with it in the bathrooms because I think it's really important. Recently, I had these really great LED lights in my bathroom, and one of them oddly burnt out, which is rare. But the only other round bulb I had was a little warm, and I've realized how much I do hate warm lighting in the bathroom. So I think doing a cooler light in the bathroom is fine. I get it in the kitchen, but if the kitchen is like in a big common space, that there's a big open space, and it might just be my crazy, weird designer Virgo-ness, but when I walk into a room and I see a different warmth level in the same space, it makes me twitch. But some. I mean, I'm kind of a happy, like. I'm like a happy, like. I like a good, like, 3,500. Kind of like. Yeah, kind of meeting in the middle to where it's not too warm and it's not too, it's like, it's just right. I'm like Goldilocks. I'm looking for that light that's just right. So like, I used to go more warm, but then I realized it's not the best light to do things with. So I found that a nice like 3,500 is a nice in the middle where it's not like that operating room, but it's also not too amber, and it makes clients really happy. Yeah, of course.
Other question? Oh, we're over here. Okay. Where's the mic? Okay, yell.
I just want to say,
There you go.
first off, thank you for being a voice for mental health. In this generation, we really need more voices. But have you ever had a favorite hero story?
Have you ever had a favorite hero story? I get asked that a lot. I don't like that. I can't. That's like asking who my favorite child is. I remember who my least favorite one was, but not my favorite. But I won't say that. My favorite. I would still say one of my favorite was Neil Reddy from season 1. Was it season 1 or season 2? We filmed Atlanta together, so I forget exactly where it aired. But he's still a friend of mine to this day. And he was one of the very first ones who would contact me and be like, hey, what do you think of this tile? I'm going to redo the powder room now. Like, you really inspired me you really made me realize how my space being done in a good way has helped my mental health. He really struggled with depression.
Describe the guy, because everybody's going, which one's Neil?
I think the name of it was Saving Sasquatch. An Indian guy, had a big, long beard down to his knee, super awkward. One of the most lovely, warm, wonderful people. Anytime where he's been to my house in LA now, like we hang out. Like he just came out with an indie film, so check it out. Like he's doing well. So yeah, I would say like Neil Reddy, because we really do have a genuine, true friendship. Yeah. Somebody over there. Somebody in the back.
Up right there. Nope.
It's coming.
So you're my favorite.
Thank you.
I want to ask you if we can be best friends, please. Let's make it awkward. No, so Queer Eye is like one of my very favorite shows, and I'm curious, everyone on the show seems absolutely lovely. Are you friends with all of them, and do you have a favorite?
Would I say if I wasn't?
No, but I want to know.
Cromwell and I literally live down the street from each other. I can see the tree in his yard from my bathroom, from my bathroom window. Yeah. So Cromwell and I are really close. Jonathan and I used to be more close when he lived in LA. He lives in Austin now, so we don't see each other that much. Tan lives in Salt Lake. He's got 2 babies. I don't get to see him that much anymore. Anthony lives in New York, so when I'm in New York and he's in town, we see each other. But Karamo's definitely, literally we live down the street from each other. We see each other all the time. We text every day. We all love each other, but some of us are closer with other ones than, we all get along. We're like siblings, Sometimes we want to wring each other's necks, but if anybody else tries to, we'll kill them. Yeah.
I got one over here too, if you want to hit this side.
Great.
Hello. So I'm really looking forward to reading your first book.
Sorry, could we get the mics up a little bit for the questionnaires? I can't hear them. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm really looking forward to reading your first book.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, is there a show, your very own show, that we can look forward to where you're transforming spaces?
Maybe.
Yay.
Maybe. Definitely working on some things I can't really talk about yet. But yeah, there might be something in the future there.
Are we over there?
And then there was quite a few in the back up there too.
Hands are going up. There we go.
Hi.
Hi.
I'd love to know about your vacation rental.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Airbnb.com/Bobby Berk.
I would love to know how you made decisions for the design in it.
So it's the 4th of July, 2021. Yeah. I went to an Airbnb in Palm Desert, and I walked in and like instantly fell in love with the space. And I walked in, and there was this beautiful little gift basket from some lady who had designed the space, and her name was Paula Oblin. And she was just like, hey, I heard you're staying in the space, and I love you, so I just thought I would give you this little gift basket. So then, fast forward a few days later, like drunkenly in the pool, I was like, I want a house in the desert. And I've always wanted a house in the desert, but I could not justify just having that was a weird thing to like having a second home. That wasn't, and so, but I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna do this, it needs to be a vacation rental. And I researched Paula, and I found that she specializes in just vacation rentals. More than that, but that's her specialty. She's right down here. And she's doing the Vacation Rental Summit that is right before Margaret, going right now. Oh, hi, Jane. And so I reached out to her, and I was like, hey, I am doing this vacation rental. I've never done one before. Do you want to collaborate on it with me? And so she's taught me some amazing things that you need to worry about, things that as designers we would normally worry about, you don't need to worry about. So yeah, I think the question was, how did I figure that out? I was like, it was Paula. Yeah. Of course.
There's lots. Where are we?
Oh, I think there was
have it, and I'm blessed to know you both personally. And it's so great to see you, Bobby. I get to see Kelly, though.
I can't see who you are.
It's Angela Pickens.
Hi. You're right in a shadow. And I was like, I can't see who you are.
So knowing your whole journey and actually knowing what Kelly does, how do you infuse antiques into your things? And are you inspired by all your new designs on what you're doing? Is it by travel? Is it by antiques and things like that?
So I'll be honest, I don't use a lot of antiques in my designs. I do have a few like mid-century antiques in my home, but that's not really my aesthetic. And so often I will have clients who will come to me and be like, oh, hey, I'm a huge fan of the show. I want you to design my home. And I'll figure out that our design aesthetics are so far off that it would be dumb for me to do it. Like, because as designers, like, we really need to be passionate about the projects we're doing. And if we're designing for a client that is so far from like what makes us tick, it's gonna show. And so there will be times where they're like, oh, I'm a maximalist, I love a lot of color. I'm like, well, girl, here is Corey Damon Jenkins's card. You are gonna love him. He is the king when it comes to the look you're wanting. So as a designer, I think that we should really be willing to sometimes hand off a client to a designer that matches better and hope that that karma is gonna come back to us. And when that designer or any other designer has a client, they're like, you know what? You and Kelly Ellis would just hit it off so well, and they pass it back to you. So antiques, not really my thing. Again, sometimes I'll see one, I'm like, oh my God, like if I had the right project, like we're getting ready to do another vacation rental in Palm Desert, and we're calling it Casa Mallorca because it's like the stone house that just reminds me of Mallorca in Spain. We'll probably infuse some antiques into that because it's like old world. But for like my personal design, I love mid-century, I love modern, like clean, very minimalism. So I don't personally infuse a lot of antiques, but I love when people do. I love the look, it's just not for me. Yeah.
Okay, hello Virgo, one Virgo to another. I see you. So my question is, when you first started, at what point, or can you remember the moment when you said, this is what I want to do for good? Like, was there a pivotal moment or something that happened, or were you at a place or something where you said, okay, this is what fuels me?
I don't know if I'd say that there was a specific moment, but I think what has kept me doing it is the fact that I'm still happy doing it. The fact that I still love what I do, the fact that when I start working on a project, like, I get excited about it. So I can't say that there was one like specific moment where like, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. But the fact that I still love what I do and it makes me happy is what I know that I wanna keep doing it, at least for now.
So what do you do?
And I think that's what's important is doing the things that make you happy.
And don't be discouraged when you have those clients that make you question why you're doing what you're doing.
They have. We had a
We
client.
all know those too, right?
We had a client recently, and they were lovely. They're just some of the most wonderful people, but they love design a little too much. And I actually had to get on a call with them because they were upset with my team because my team wasn't including them enough. It wasn't like sending them on design trips to stores, and I was like, guys, this is why you hired us. If you wanted to design it yourself, you should have just designed it yourself. So yeah, there can be some times where you're like, is this what I want to do? And again, they're the most lovely people. And once my team realized, they're like, okay, even though we know what tile we're using, let them go to Ansax. If they want to go look at every single tile in there and come back to the decision that the one we chose was the right one, go for it. Use your time. Okay, we're gonna bill you for it.
Any other questions? I know we had some over here. Let's see.
I had a question about the series that you did in Japan, and what was the impetus for doing that particular group of shows, and was there someone on the team that had lived in Japan? How did that come about?
I think Netflix just wanted to expand to Japan more. We are literally told zero information about why we get sent anywhere, and we find kind of like last minute. I mean, we were so happy we got to go to Japan because it was amazing. It's one of my favorite countries, and it was really challenging design-wise, designing, 105 square foot spaces. That also, like, here landlords are like, you can't paint and do that. In Japan, they follow rules, and so when the landlord, their lease says you can't put anything on the wall, you cannot put anything on the wall, like nothing. So I had to get really creative to kind of like build these like spaces within the space that I could create design with and put stuff on the new walls I was creating, basically a shell within a shell. So yeah, it wasn't any choice of ours, but I was so glad we got to do it because it was really, really amazing. Austin's my favorite season, but Japan is like right up there with it.
That was a great season. The design challenges that you had there, that I think, again, we all watched just to see what he was going to do, right? Like, how in the hell are you going to work this one out? And you did every single time. It was a really, really fantastic show.
Smaller spaces are harder. People are like, no, I wouldn't do that. No, smaller spaces are harder. You have to get really creative. Big, grand spaces are pretty easy. Well, not easy, but easier.
Easier, exactly. There was another question over here. No? Yes? Hand? Yep.
So I was actually on one of your very first walking tours several years ago. I've loved you ever since. But I actually have, I don't know if it's too personal a question, but how did you move out at 15? Like, I never knew that of your story. Like, that seems crazy to...
I lived in a very small conservative town in a very conservative family, and I wore a mask, and not an N95 mask, like a, like a mask of this is a completely fake personality of I'm just, straightforward like sports, and I just one day, it was rough at home at the time, and I couldn't wear that mask one more day. And like there was one kid that came out in my hometown and like he got run off the road, like they tried to kill him. And so I was like, well, I've got to leave because I can't wear this mask one more day. And if I have to keep wearing this mask, I don't know what I'm going to do to myself. But I'm like, if I come out, who knows what's going to happen to me? So I made the decision to leave because I needed to be my true authentic self and actually be able to make true connections with people instead of being this fake person that was making connections. Yeah.
So you went to New York? Like you just
No, oh,
where'd you
no,
go?
no, no,
Like
no.
where'd you go at
No,
15?
I went to the big town of, actually, first I went to Branson, Missouri. And then I went to the big town of Springfield, Missouri. And then I went to Denver when I was 17. I was in Denver. It's still one of my favorite cities. I was in Denver until 2003 when I had just turned 21. And at 21, I moved to New York.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Brave.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, we have a lot. Couple. We'll take
Pass
two more.
to
We'll take two
her.
more questions. Passing that mic around like a hot potato.
Okay.
Great.
I'm really sorry. I'm right in the middle. Okay, Bobby, you're really busy, and I know there's a ton of designers, and it's the era of the collaboration. And I just wonder any advice you have for designers in choosing who to collaborate with, what's important, because, you know, as a designer, who you are is so important to you. So, like, how not to lose that, or what are the things you should be mindful of?
One of my rules of companies and people I do business with is if I wouldn't want to have a drink with you, I don't want to do business with you. You know, personal relationships are very, very important. I've had good partnerships and I've had bad ones, and it all often comes down to those relationships and how you've cultivated those and how willing they are, how far they're willing to go for you because you've made a good relationship. So it's kind of based on the relationship, you know, a gut feeling. So it's hard to give exact advice, but again, like if you have a weird, like if you don't connect with those people, it's not going to be successful. You know, because it's all about the connection. It's all about the collaboration. So if something might be like, oh my God, this is such a huge opportunity, but you're like, God, I can't stand these people. You know, don't do it. I can't say for sure it's not going to be a success, but you know, in my experience, the most successful partnerships are the ones where you guys are really happy to be working together and both parties are really passionate about making it a success. It's not just another designer collaboration checking off the box of the hundreds they already have. Sometimes the smaller deals are the most successful and can have the most longevity.
I agree. That's good advice.
Yeah. That's fine. I mean, we can have some tea. Like, yeah. And you know, when I say a drink, you know, it's somebody you wouldn't want to socialize with, somebody that you couldn't sit there and have a conversation with and enjoy it, you know.
Sure.
A drink just sometimes helps.
Okay, one more. We have time for one more question.
Okay.
Where? Okay.
Hey, Bobby. What makes you happy in your home? What makes you feel right at home?
I mean, for me, it's like organization. You know, I can't, when I come home and things are a mess, I can't relax. Like, I need to organize and straighten. So, yeah, for me, it's things having its place. Yeah. All right. Well, here's the thing. Your friends are not coming over for your house. Your friends are coming over for you. I don't know if you guys watch Schitt's Creek. Emily Hampshire, say Stevie, one of my best friends. And she gets so, even when I come over, she gets so much anxiety about her space, not being perfect and this and that. And I'm just like, I am not here for your space. I'm here to spend time with you. So I get it. I've been like that too. I've learned to let go a little bit though, because I've realized I'm like, my friends aren't coming over to hang out in my space. I mean, they are going over to hang out in my space, but they're not noticing that. They're here to hang out with you. And I mean, unless it's just really dirty and like, then maybe. But yeah. I mean, I highly doubt they notice those dishes.
But how many
You know.
times have you had all your friends, you're all designers, and your friends go, oh, I can't have you over? They
Yeah.
all do it.
No, Emily
Right?
will do that. I'm like, oh, I'm coming over. She's like, oh my God, no. She's like, everything's such a mess. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, I have seen your house a mess. Like, it's fine. I get that all. Yes. People will be like, oh no, I'm too scared to have you over. I'm like, why? I'm like, I do this for work all day. The last thing I want to do is come here and critique your space. Like, that's not what I'm thinking of. Again, unless it's dirty. And then I'm like, you're coming to hang out at my house. Yeah.
Everyone, please put your hands together and let's just
Thank you guys so much. Also, guys, I want to thank Karastan, my rug partner. They're the ones that made this happen. They're the ones that got you these amazing books. So if any of you guys would like your book signed, I would love to. I'm going to be up at their showroom.
It's on the 4th floor.
D433, right in this building.
Yes.
I would love to sign your books. I'd love to meet you. So meet me up there. I'm heading up there in about 10 minutes.
Great.
Thank you so much for coming, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. I love you.